Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Standards Committee. We have apologies from our chairman, Mr. Petrinos, so in his stead I am taking the chair as vice chairman. We've also got apologies from Miss Stacey, but we are quorate with the three of us that are here. Are there any declarations of interest, please? No? The minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of November have been circulated. May they be approved as a true record?
Yes, I'm happy.
Everyone happy?
I wasn't here.
Yeah, well, you and I will have to say that they're right as far as we know. So, Mr. Ellicott, are you proposing those?
Yeah.
I'll second them. All those in favour? Any against? Thank you. Any matters arising from those minutes on page 1? On page 2? Just on that one, I suppose we've been having a discussion this morning about what the size of the planning committee should be, and that will have some bearing on the requirement for substitutes. So that's an ongoing discussion. Page 3. Where you will note that we're hoping to hear from the independent people from time to time. And page 4. Okay, thank you. Item 4 is any business of urgency. I haven't been made aware of any, nor am I personally wishing to bring anything forward. Item 5, I don't believe we have any public speakers. No. Item 6, annual governance review, to consider the joint report of the Chief Finance Officer and Solicitor and Monitoring Officer. So, Mr. Barrett?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, members. The purpose of this report, first of two this afternoon, is to report our compliance with the Authority's Code of Corporate Governance, and to also consider the annual governance statement for 2024-25. You may recall it was only back in November when I last brought you the 2023-24 paper, the equivalent paper, due to the time of the audit last year. So this report details our compliance with the areas of corporate governance set out in the report. I'll read through it in a minute. And it details the arrangements we have in place for those, and also provides an in-year commentary on each area. So there are 7 areas, and pretty much 7 known principles. A, behaving with integrity, strong commitment to ethical values, and respecting the rule of law. B, is ensuring openness and comprehensive stakeholder engagement. C, is defining outcomes in terms of sustainable economic, social and environmental benefits. On D, we have determining the interventions necessary to optimise the achievement of the intended outcome. E is developing the entity's capacity, including the capacity of leadership and the individuals within it. Second last, managing risks and performance through robust internal control and strong public financial management. And the final one of those is implementing good practice and transparency, reporting and audit to deliver effective accountability. Now, the requirement for this comes under 2 bits of legislation. We've got the Local Government Act 2003 and the Accounts and Audit Regulations 2015. And primarily, one of the selfish reasons I'm bringing this is because it forms part of the annual accounts, which I'm going to be presenting to the auditors once I complete those in June. So it's an essential part of our governance framework, but it's a really good, code book to hang all these areas and to actually raise a light to what we have been doing, what we have achieved, what we are doing, what we plan to do in terms of all these areas of good corporate governance across the organisation. So I think I'll just leave that section there and open the floor to yourselves to kind of ask me any questions on those areas, any items you want further explanation about or wish to add to.
Anything you want to add, Stephen?
No, I've reviewed it and
Members, anything you want to say? There are 3 recommendations on this report, to be mindful of that. So we've got to approve the annual governance review, or we're asked to approve the annual governance review, then note the results of the self-assessment in section 9, and then approve the annual governance statement which follows it.
I'm happy with that.
Right, are you happy with the governance self-assessment in section 9? Mr. Keane?
Just to say, once again, it mentions here consultative committees and mentions parishes in particular.
Paragraph?
On page 331,
Yeah.
I know it's been mentioned, but it just once again the importance of the parish consultation form, consultative form, whatever it's in here, so it needs to be pursued. We need to, I know it was mentioned earlier on, but I just pointed out, I highlighted it before the meeting.
So is there anything on the bulk of the governance review that anybody wants to raise, or are we all happy with it? Are you happy if we move on then to the section 9, audit committee self-assessment? And is there anything that anybody wishes to disagree with, or indeed comment on the self-assessment?
Could I raise that? This is on a similar basis to last year. I've reviewed this and put what I thought is the best answer, or in essence what our answer is for the organisation. So I really do need you to review this and to confirm you are happy with those responses.
Well, the only one that I'm intrigued by, because it's the only one where you've stuck an X in the right-hand column, is has the membership of the committee been assessed against the core knowledge and skills framework and found to be satisfactory? So, have the membership been found to be satisfactory? And you're saying, no, they haven't.
That's because we haven't actually tested it. We haven't tested it against that core framework. So we haven't done that piece of work yet. It sits in with the kind of member induction and training programme we discussed at the last meeting.
Okay. Is it one where you would say, no, we haven't full stop, or actually in elements that we have, and therefore it would be a part of it?
I'm happy for it to be, sorry.
You're happy for it to be a partly?
I'm happy for it to be partly, yes. So
I think it's just overwhelmingly negative if we've got an X in the no box.
It is, but if we don't have a skills framework, do we have a skills framework in place?
we essentially agreed one in the November committee.
And it's in place, so therefore, have we done any work? If we've done some work on that, then I think Stephen's partly is reasonable. Otherwise,
well, the other thing is, who's doing the assessing?
of the assessors.
Because whilst it reads badly for the membership of the committee, it might actually be a failure on the part of the assessor to actually do anything about it.
Chairman, it's not actually about our skills and knowledge, it's about having an understanding of what they are. And I guess then maybe, I don't know, as appointments are done by the Secretary of State, not by this authority, I'm not quite sure how it's relevant to what we can do.
If I could flip that, Chairman, and say we have got we've got a training and induction schedule, so that covers all the areas. And by way of actually carrying that out and completing that, we are partly undertaking this response. We're not externally providing a skills audit. We haven't started to do that at all yet. But we have got a training programme that was arranged in the November meeting. So I'm happy to be swayed and put that an X in the partly box, or we could stay in the no box. So.
Well, I just think it being entirely in the no box looks very negative, whereas I'm sure there must be elements against which the committee members, and I'm assuming it has to have the members of the committee rather than have the membership of the committee, so to speak. that the members have been at least partially tested against some of those elements of the framework, otherwise we wouldn't really be able to continue to sit in the way that we do.
Chairman, is this saying that we need to assess what skills we have and see if we need training in areas that we don't have the right skills? Is that?
Well, I mean, take the core knowledge, for instance. I don't want to get too hung up about this particular debate, but if we're talking about audit, which and governance, I suppose, and elements of how we run ourselves, we cannot do some of the things that we do on a regular basis, like we've been doing this morning, unless we've got some core knowledge. So every time there's a meeting, we're being tested against the core knowledge. I mean, if we all sit there like lemons, if we all sit there like lemons, as opposed to just some of us sitting there like lemons, then you could say, yes, well, we're failing fundamentally. But I don't want to get too hung up about this at all. I just feel it might be worth.
If it assists, the commentary says it, the authority is guided and governed by the Constitution, scheme of delegation and standing orders, which I would imagine, hope, that members would have reviewed and have in the forefront of their mind. So that would be the core knowledge that they just haven't been assessed against.
Indeed.
You haven't sat down and had a written examination of the knowledge.
No. Well, we don't know that because we're not in charge of the assessment, I suppose. You're in charge of the assessment, but it's almost like an ongoing assessment. I mean, unless you're sitting there saying, today we are having the exam, as opposed to, well, I am observing you closely at every possible opportunity. Can we settle for it being in the party box?
Indeed,
Okay.
Yep, I'm happy with it.
All right, let's do that. Okay. Other than that, are we happy for the Section 9 Audit Committee self-assessment to be agreed? Yeah. And then the last one was the governance statement. Are we happy with that? Then Sarah and Andrew can sign it.
I keep going back to this one. When you say we don't have a dedicated audit committee. No?
We used to have a financial resources committee,
That's what I thought.
but that stopped. We've got a separate final accounts committee, but that is purely to receive the final accounts once they've been audited by the external auditors. It's been probably since about 2015 that we moved from having separate committees for financial resources to having full authority of auditors and stuff. So this essentially full authority performs the function of the audit committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And I say again, are we happy with the annual governance statement? Can I check this? Yes. So I'll move the recommendations from the chair with that one recommendation to the self-assessment.
I'll second them.
Seconded. Mercy, all those in favour? Thank you. Thank you. Beautifully presented report today.
Thank you, Chairman.
So that takes us on then to item 7, overview of complaints and compliments. Indeed.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'll start with actually the compliments at the right at the foot of the report. Because we've had a total of 48 compliments since 17th of February 2025. Sorry, we received 17th of February 2025, which is quite a considerable number, a really positive indictment of what we're doing. The report sets out essentially our complaints that have gone to a stage 1 or stage 2 process. So we've got a formal complaints process. We updated that in 2021. So firstly we have an informal stage for complaints, and those dealt by the relevant officers in the areas concerned. We then have a simplified 2-stage process, formal process. So that's dealt with the relevant senior manager and escalated indeed to the complaints officer and chief executive. So in the report, which is the extent of the one received in November, we've received 5 stage 1 complaints and 1 stage 2 complaint. They're set out the table below. In relation to the stage 2 at the bottom of the table, the complaint advised back in early December that they would be referring the matter to the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman, LGSEO. To date we've received no correspondence on that matter to suggest they were investigating the matter. We had 1 stage 2 complaint back in April 2024, and that was about traffic noise in the local area in Dalton. The Ombudsman ruled they would not investigate that complaint. There's not the evidence of fault in the authority's response.
Okay. So just looking then at 1.2, the stage 1 complaints, most of them do seem to be about planning in one guise or another. So failure to determine planning application within the statutory timeframes upheld, planning concerns about apparent lack of action by the authority in an enforcement case not upheld. Planning failure to determine planning application within statutory timeframes upheld. Planning dissatisfaction with the planning process, complaint not upheld, and equally planning concerns about apparent lack of action by the authority in the enforcement case, again not upheld. So the ones where they were upheld do seem to be very much about failure to determine the application within statutory time frames. I take it that that is now something that we've addressed through the reorganisation of the planning team.
Indeed.
So then the enforcement concerns weren't upheld, which is interesting. And then we have the latch, the gate latch, when the complaint was partially upheld, but we've taken action to make sure that that ceases to be, hopefully, an issue. Okay. I don't know how we compare with other authorities in types and numbers of complaints that we get.
In terms of National Park wise, I do have no information, unfortunately, from a Devon perspective.
It would be interesting to know if we were benchmarked for it, then we could find an authority that does more or less the same thing for similar size.
Yeah, we don't really do planning work.
So all we can say is that there are a relatively small number of issues, those which have not been upheld, and those that have been upheld we are addressing or have addressed. So congratulations, I think, to the authority and the officers for making sure that there are as few complaints as there are that go to the Ombudsman, and congratulations on the number of compliments that we received.
And also, Chairman, dealing with the complaints
Yes,
so far, which is important.
but it is our responsibility to make sure that we've looked at these, that we're not just nodding them through. Are we happy that you've considered?
I think it's very good. Personally, I think you can.
Would our independent person wish to comment?
I mean, I thought it's quite not very many complaints given what you deal with, and the fact that they're significantly outweighed by compliments has got to be, you know, people don't like to compliment as much as they like to complain. So perhaps that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But you know, as I say, you can't benchmark it against anything, but that would be my indication.
Thank you. Right, so the recommendation is that we're recommended to consider the overview report of general complaints and compliments received by the authority, which we duly have, and the comments we've made on the whole are ones which are relatively positive about the numbers, without being complacent about them. One is too many, but perhaps the number we get are few enough for us to at least feel that we're doing, broadly speaking, the right things. So may I see all those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. So we will approve that. That brings us to the end of the agenda items. Is there anything, Ms Carter, that you wish to draw to our attention about any subsequent meetings of this group?
I don't think so, not John.
Okay. We are at some stage, aren't we, due to look at the new standards regime?
Yes, there's a consultation out at the, well, there was a consultation with closed now,
Yeah.
so we are awaiting
The outcome of that. Right, in that case, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing else. Yes, Andrew.
That consultation closed on the 26th of February.
Okay.
That was the deadline for submitting thoughts. So I imagine it'll be a good 6 months or more before we get an outcome.
So we wait to see what we're going to be faced with. Okay. Right, in that case, ladies and gentlemen, I will thank